All right, we are getting started here. And we'll go live on Amazon. So here we are once again. So everybody else is watching the Apple event. I'm watching it also, but kind of in a window here, because I'm curious about what Apple has to offer. But I also thought that people might want to see something other than than Apple stuff at the moment. So I got in this ThinkPad on loan from Lenovo. So that is what we're looking at the moment. So I want to say hello to some folks as we get started here. They did announce a new iMac that looks really cool. So I think what I'll do is I will say things about what I'm seeing. I don't think I can rebroadcast their feed because of copyright and stuff. So we're just going to say hello to some folks. So Romeric is here. Recipe Bob is here. Gaming X Technology is here. BB Garnett is here. Greg M is here. You're welcome for the stream. And Recipe Bob is here. I always watch the wrap-up, just the stuff, not the yakking. And Endo Gamer is here as well. Yeah, there's a lot of yakking going on right now. So they're talking about the iMac and all the different things that go into it. And I can't show you what they're talking about because I think there's copyright stuff that they do. But it looks cool. I'm surprised that, and I'll start to show you what we're looking at today. So far as I watch this, I'm surprised that they didn't up the M1 on the iMac. So it's the same experience as what you might have on the Mac Mini. And I have an iMac that I've been using for a number of years on my desk over there. And it's fine. In fact, it still performs just fine. But I'm always up for something new, right? But we'll have to see what the future brings here. Nethead says that the 2000s was the best time for the ThinkPad laptops. Yeah, those things were tanks back then. We used to buy them for my office. This is really nice, though. Oh my goodness, it's very light. This is the X1. This is the one they call the Nano, the X1 Nano. So here, have a look at it. Now, Jake has already done his, oh my goodness, this is so light. It almost feels like there's nothing in it. So Jake has done his thing with this already. But what I am doing today is a couple of things that he didn't do, which is not a fault of his own. I like to do this myself. So I do like to play with these things a bit as well. But this thing is super lightweight. So we will, and Greg M says YouTube will take down the video. Oh my goodness, they're that crazy about it? And you know, that's an area, you know, like a lot of people become like these fair use experts, but that's, ooh, this display is nice too, my goodness. This is actually really nice. I hadn't looked at this yet. It's not a touch screen, but wow, that display looks beautiful. I don't think it's an OLED. I think it's, I'll look at the system specs on it. Joseph Sakata wants to know, is there an AMD version of this? No, but that would be a killer machine, wouldn't it? So here, I'll put this out of the way so you can look at. And it weighs nothing. I mean, this thing is probably 2 pounds. It is super lightweight, but this is expensive. But what it's got inside is the, this has got an i7 with the Evo graphics. It's got the G7. So I thought we would boot up a game or two. Actually, Jake has already done a bunch of games on it, so I'm just going to boot up the one he didn't do, which is Red Dead Redemption again, just to see what that looks like. And we'll take a look. Now they're saying right now in the Apple stream that the new iMac has 50% faster graphics versus what? I'm guessing the current Intel one? I'm not listening to it, so I'd have to tune in. This is the power adapter. It's a little 65-watt adapter. It is USB-C. And this has 2 Thunderbolt ports on the side. Ooh. Honestly, if you were to pick this up, you would think it's one of those demo units that doesn't actually do anything. It's pretty crazy. Now, what I'm going to do as I'm watching the Apple stream is pull up macrumors.com because they tend to do a good job kind of summarizing everything. So let's take a look at their Okay, so they're comparing it against the previous iMac. That's what they're comparing it against. Yeah, so for me, it's like, well, I would probably go with, see, the advantage of the iMac over the Mac Mini was that it had a GPU, but this new iMac doesn't. It's just running with the M1 chip, so the advantage isn't there. I guess if you're looking for an all-in-one, it's a good deal. Chris Allegretta says, what about an ARM version? Imagine like how much lighter this would be with an ARM chip inside. I don't know how you'd make it lighter, but it's possible. I mean, it is light. Like, it really feels like there's nothing in there. It's lighter than my MacBook Air for sure. BB Garnett says touchscreen would be awesome. Yeah, actually, they sent me another one too. These are both on loan, by the way. They don't give me these. The Yoga that I've got here next to me is the titanium, which is a little thicker, but it's a 2-in-1. So that will be, when I'm going to do a review, I think I'm going to review both of them together because they kind of perform the same. So, and I've got so much stuff to get posted this week. I think it might be more productive to just do them together. All right, let's plug it in real quick. I just want to get some power going to it. All right, let's see what we get in here. Now they're talking about different types of keyboards for it. Okay. So yeah, so the other one, here, I'll take it out of the box real quick, but we're going to get this one done first. So the other one is this one. So this is the 2-in-1. This one feels a little heavier, and this one doesn't have like I think this is like a carbon fiber material or magnesium. I got to read up on all the different materials on there. This one is the Yoga X1, which is their titanium edition. I will say that iMac looks pretty cool, but you don't see a lot of the color if it's just facing towards the back of the wall, because most of the color is on the back of it. All right, let's take this out of the box here. Yeah, so this is the, here, I'll put them next to each other. So this is the 2-in-1, which is actually, it's heavier, but not much heavier. So it is, well, it's got a bigger screen. So it's a little bit larger. Yeah, I'll put them right up next to each other here. I wonder if the aspect ratio on this, so this one looks more like a traditional, might be a 16:10. And this one looks like it's got a more square aspect ratio. And then there is not a garaged pen on this one. I guess they wouldn't have any room for it. Usually on some of these Yogas, they have a garaged pen. But it feels pretty nice. Oh, it snaps in back there too. It's pretty good. Not bad. I would say out of the two, I kind of prefer this one. I like the laptop design a little better. I don't do a lot with 2-in-1s. So that's my take on it. Joseph Zakata wants to know, what's the material on the Yoga like? So I think the top is, it feels like titanium actually. I gotta read up on all the materials used here. I may actually review this one separately just because it feels like a very different computer. Initially I thought these were like, one was like the tablet version of the other one, but this one feels more of its own thing. So I think I'm gonna do them separately. So that'll give us, maybe we'll do a twofer on the Lenovo stuff this week, because these are almost ready to go. I just got a couple of things to shoot on them. Now this one is running with the i7. The 2-in-1 is running with the i5. So there's a little difference between those two. So I would say the i7, when you're looking at these Intel G7, or these new Intel chips, the 11th generation, the G7 on the i7 is faster than the G7 on the i5 version, insofar as graphics are concerned. All right, let me do a quick webcam test here. The keyboard feels pretty good. The travel doesn't feel as deep as some of the other ThinkPads, but the keyboard feels about the same. It's kind of a hybrid keyboard. So it's got some of the features of the Yoga, like of the IdeaPad Yoga stuff, but it's got the ThinkPad nub here. All right, so let's, all right, now the camera, I'm curious about the webcam and the resolution, because I was reading that they're moving to 1080p cameras now, but this one is 720p. You know, what's funny though is that the camera here, to get the position right, I've got to move the display down to kind of get it within the, it's got a weird angle to it. Maybe it's the height of the display. So if you're watching the Apple thing, they got some guy running on the roof of the Apple building there. Now he's jumping off of it. Hope they have insurance for that. So I'm just going to hit record here. The camera looks pretty good. It looks like it's doing some image processing. But to get the right angle, you got to move the display down a little bit, which is kind of weird. I don't know how they're angling the lens. I need to make note of that on my notes for this one. Simeon wants Lenovo to release a AMD version of. Yeah, I will say this, and perhaps perhaps I am committing sacrilege by saying this for those of you who are really into the AMD stuff. Give me 1 second. I've got to save the file here. At the risk of committing sacrilege, if you get the i7 with the G7 graphics, you're pretty much there on what the 4th generation AMD chips, the 4500 and 4700 were running at. You're actually a little better graphically. The question is cooling and efficiency and all that stuff. And Joseph Sakata says that the camera looks decent for Zoom calls. Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine for that. But it's nice. It's super, super light. I can't, like, you can't demonstrate just how light it is. It doesn't weigh anything. And they get lighter like every year. It's really, really cool. All right, I'm just pulling up my notes on the computer here. And I'm like I'm a little distracted because I'm watching the Apple thing at the same time just to see. Okay, so now they're talking about the iPad. Now, I bought the iPad Pro like 4 years ago or 3 years ago. And I haven't had the need to upgrade it because it does everything I want it to do. All right, so the webcam, I want to just make a note of the webcam here. Weird angle, have to angle up. All right, there we go. I'm just putting some notes into my cheat sheet that I use for my reviews. Now the display, this is a 13-inch display, 2160 by 1350. It is IPS 450 nits, so it's nice and bright. And it is running with Dolby Vision. And it does 100% of the sRGB. So it's not a 4K display, it is a 2K display. All right, so now what they're talking about, now here's what I would do on I'm sorry to keep going back and forth here, because I promised to show Intel Windows computers while we're watching the Apple thing. But I will say, if they make an iPad that runs Mac OS, I'm in. Let's see if they do that, because they're talking about M1 now in the context of the iPad. And I've been saying for years, like, make the iPad run something other than iOS for those of us that want to do a little bit more with it. All right, so we got that done. So now I want to check my document again, just to take a look at the cooling here. So the cooling isn't great on these, and that's to be expected given the size. So Jake ran the X1 Nano through the stress test from 3D Mark, and it came in at 79.4%. So when you pack things in this tightly, you have definite performance issues that arise from that. And I was looking through some of his other notes here. All right, so let's plug in my little drive here, and we'll load up Red Dead Redemption 2 and see if it runs. So we'll plug this in. I got a little Thunderbolt 4 cable here. This is not a Thunderbolt drive, but the cool thing with Thunderbolt 4 cables is that they work with USB devices too. So the nice thing with a Thunderbolt 4 cable is that it is guaranteed to work with whatever you are plugging it into that has a USB-C port on it. Maybe with the exception of a 2x2, I have to check on that. But everything else works with it, including power delivery. All right, so we're going to plug this in, and I'm just going to pop into my Steam account real quick. And we'll see what we get here. So they're still talking about the M1 as part of the iMac or the iPad overview here. And Simeon says, interesting take. Yeah, I would look at, Simeon, I did a review of I'm trying to think which ones now I've looked at that have the, I'm sorry, I'm like doing three things at once here. I would take a look at some of the reviews that I did of the 11th generation i7s. There's a Dell that I reviewed recently. It's the XPS 13. If you go and look for that review, I've got a chart that'll show you the breakdown. And I found that the i7 with the G7, 11th generation, is very much comparable to what you would experience with a Intel thing. All right, bear with me for one more second here, folks, because I have to set up a meeting for tomorrow. I got such a busy week. I got all these like things happening that are all different from each other. So I just need to schedule a meeting here on my calendar with somebody. Okay. All right. After Thursday, my week gets a lot better. And tomorrow, if you're on Facebook, and I'll probably post this somewhere afterward, but tomorrow I'm doing a video, panel discussion about electric cars in Connecticut with a bunch of folks. So that might be kind of fun to tune into. Because in Connecticut, you can't buy an electric car, like directly from Tesla. Okay, so here's the deal on the new iPad as we look at a Windows computer, because I can't show you the Apple event. They're putting the M1 into the iPad Pro. So all the things that would come into play with that. Thunderbolt on the iPad Pro and 5G. And it supports the XDR display. But does it not run OS 10? Like, make it a Mac at this point. Why? I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, I'd love to have the best of both worlds. I would like when I dock that iPad to turn it into a Mac. I would buy that. And then when you pull it off, you could have the choice, right? But so right now they're building an M1 iPad, but it doesn't run Mac OS. And it's small enough, like that's the size that I want. I'd love a little Mac that size. You know, you dock it with the keyboard and, you know what I mean? That's why we can't have nice things. All right, let's continue with what I'm supposed to be doing here. I'm supposed to be getting some work done this afternoon. I'm a day ahead on my shooting schedule because I was able to do the wrap-up yesterday, and I got the next review done. I reviewed that, that switch we looked at last time. So we're going to have that going up tomorrow, and then I'm going to work on this one next. And I've got like my Wednesday and Thursday are going to be a little wacky. And we may actually have an interview with somebody from one of these startup electric car companies too. So that might be happening tomorrow also. So I've got all this stuff going, and I've got to put in all my other work in the interim with that. And for some reason, Steam is not loading up on this little sucker. So let's see what's going on with that. Yeah, Steam is locked up. There we go. All right. I love the trackpad on this. It's got a nice, it feels good. It's not too springy. It's got a nice firmness to it. Lorenzo Santos wants to know, what's the price on this one? You really don't want to know. I think it's like about $1,700. So this one's a little on the more expensive side of things versus what we usually look at. But you know what, though? I like to get these in every once in a while because, and these are on loan, by the way, so they're not giving these to me. I like to get these in because it's good to see what the high end looks like, right? So that was part of my reason for looking at this every once in a while. But the screen is beautiful on this thing. It's super nice. All right. Yeah, see, I agree with Simeon here. Like, if they had an iPad that ran Mac OS, you could totally get around it because maybe, you know, if they really wanted to be purists about it, like it is not a Mac when it's docked, right? It's a Mac when it's docked into the keyboard trackpad thing, and then when you pull it out, it becomes an iPad again, right? I'd be okay with that. And they're talking about the, they've got this other feature they're talking about called Center Stage. I've been hearing about this for a while. And I think, is that the thing that makes your eyes look like you're looking at the person when you're actually looking at the screen? Yeah, talking all about the cameras and stuff is what they were going through here. Let me go grab this real quick here. And I couldn't shoot much today because they're doing the landscaper people are here. So they're doing all of the landscaping stuff. So it's noisy out there. There's mowers going and leaf blowers and, okay, so now we are going to load up now. I thought I had installed remember we were looking at some stuff last week, and I know I installed Red Dead Redemption because I bought it. Here it is. Oh, it's not here either, huh? I still install it onto the thing here. And you know what I'm going to do then is I'm going to attach my network to this thing so we can speed up the download. So there's no, oh, I'm out of ports. I am out of ports, although I could probably, we'll just go with the Wi-Fi. All right. This will take a minute. Because when we were playing around with that computer the other day, we had downloaded Red Dead Redemption, but you know what? I must have downloaded it directly to the computer's hard drive last time. So now we're going to put it on the external SSD here. So we'll let that do its thing here for a second. Let's see what's going on at the Apple event. They're talking about how thin the new iPad is. It looks a lot like the other one. And that's the other thing. I don't know how you make an iPad look any different. And they're talking about the display. And I know some people like, you have their iPads are like their computers, but and by the way, like this is exactly the point here that Intel is trying to make. Like, oh, you need all these dongles. Well, here we are. I've got power and I've got a hard drive attached, and I don't want to give up either port. And I guess I could plug in a dock, but then I have to go fish the thing out. So we're just going to make use of my Wi-Fi 6 here, which is almost as fast as my Ethernet connection. All right, so while that's going, you know what I'm going to do is we'll load up. We'll load something else up here. So let me grab my, because people have been complaining that I am not demoing newer games in the videos that we do, so I wanted to address that. And let me get this Bluetooth controller connected up. And that's what kills me about this iPad. It's like, it's so lightweight, right? It's got the same chip as the Mac, but it won't run the software. You know, I get it if it was like a processor tuned for just the iPad, you know, that it couldn't run everything. But now it's like Apple's putting that M1 in everything, so why not have the iPad run OS 10 stuff, or OS 11, or whatever they call it now. All right, so we're going to go add a Bluetooth device here, and we'll go to Bluetooth. I'm just going to connect up my Xbox controller. There we go. So the fan is running now. It's a little, you can hear it. It's not bad. It's pretty quiet. It'll start running heavier when we start playing some games on it and stuff. Okay, so that's ready to go. And let's go and load up some No Man's Sky here real quick and just see how that looks. Just gotta wait for it to sync up here. And we'll let this boot up. And Joseph Sakata says he's okay with GTA 5. Yeah, we definitely got GTA 5 covered in the, we just got GTA 5 covered in the other, in the B-roll that we shot for the review. So we'll have that in the video. But I think it's a fair point to have some other stuff there, you know. Carboxylated is here. Hello. Wants to know how many Thunderbolt ports does this have? This has 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports. It is unfortunately not upgradable. I don't think you'd want to take it apart if just given how... I guess you could probably unscrew the bottom of it, but there's nothing user serviceable in there. Although I bet you that you could probably replace the hard drive on it. I'll take a look and see if I can get some photos of it. This has, by the way, it's a carbon fiber and magnesium chassis. So it's similar to the X1 Carbon. They're just calling this one the Nano. But it feels really nice. Like I like the display quite a bit. I like the weight. We'll check on the battery life over the course of the evening. But the upgradability is going to be limited on that one. Chris says, GTA Horse Edition is also a good high-end measure. Exactly, which is Red Dead Redemption. And I'm just checking to see if I missed anything, any details there. So the iPad that they were showing off was a 12.9-inch with a liquid Retina XDR display. Marketing, you know, stuff. In other words, it's not an OLED display. Video with fast-moving clips and high-profile developers talking about the M1 iPad Pro. Yeah, I just don't see a need to upgrade to it. It's got a LiDAR scanner, so that's kind of neat, but I don't know what I would do with that. And then, you know what this is something interesting. So the center stage feature is actually similar to, remember those cameras that we looked at, those live stream cameras, the Mevos? So it does something similar to what the Mevo does, which is that it does a crop and zoom and follows the action. So that's something that it's doing on the M1, which is cool, but, you know, I would have been much more excited if it ran Mac software. All right, so let's go and play the game here. And we're just going to kind of do a little B-roll. I'm going to zoom the camera in a little bit just to get a better view on it. Now, this is one of the neat things about these G7 graphics on these Intel devices is that you will get performance kind of similar to what you would expect on an AMD chip. Now, granted, this computer costs a fortune, but you'll be there. I mean, you could do some stuff that you could not do on Intel graphics before. So they made some progress on the 10th generation. I think this is now Tiger Lake that we're on, is that right? So the Tiger Lake chips are much better for this kind of stuff. And what gets improved on the gaming side gets improved on other things like photo editing and video editing and all those things as well, right? So there's some benefit beyond the games. But the games, I think, are a good way to depict the performance of its graphics engine, because you could load up Photoshop, but what can you do in Photoshop that can visually demonstrate to the viewer that the graphics capacity is better than what you might have seen in the past? And that's why I think like a game is a better way to do that, even if the target market for this are not gamers. Carbon's asking about GPU support. Yeah, with the Thunderbolt 4, you could totally plug in an external GPU. So that would work. Although I have not heard of some of newer Thunderbolt 4 devices not supporting that. I did hear on the Apple side with the M1 it doesn't support external GPUs, but I did not hear that on Windows. So I might have to investigate that. KK Linux rocks. You know what? We're going to find out the answer to this question in a few minutes, because once I finish my B-roll footage here, we are going to load up Linux on it. We're going to load up Ubuntu and see if it boots. And the short answer is it likely will boot up just fine with it. All right, so here we are on the graphics settings. We are at, I think we're at 1080p. We're just kind of at the low settings, right? Nothing too fancy. We're at 720p though, so let's boost this to 1080. I'm not going to go native display on this because there's no way it's going to do very well with that. Okay. So now we are at 1080p. And what I'm going to do also is pull up the little Steam FPS thing. And we'll stick that in the top left. So it's running at about 37 frames per second. So it's playable, but it's not, it's not quite 60. Oh, that's interesting. So the iPad Pro 12 is they're not going to upgrade the 11-inch one. Yeah, I'm just looking to see if they have anything new here. Yeah, so the 11-inch iPad Pro starts at $799. The 12.9 is $1,100. Right, so to the point made on the chat, the iPad's going to cost you as much as a Mac, so why not have it run Mac software? Am I wrong in thinking that? All right, so that comment, by the way, came in from Recipe Bob. Carbon wants to know, is that a normal 60 hertz refresh rate? Yes, on this one, I believe it is a 60 hertz display. I will double check that. Typically on these business laptops, that's what you get, just because there's really nothing that a business user would need beyond that. But I'll double check that. I'm pretty sure it is. All right. All right, so Tim Cook is wrapping it up here. These go a lot quicker when they do the virtual. Yeah, these are kind of like YouTube premieres. They're not actually live events anymore. And I do need to look at the podcast thing that they're talking about. So I am on Apple Podcasts now with my weekly wrap-up show. All right, so let's take a look here. We're just going to, yeah, so we're in the 30 frames per second territory here. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, that this chipset can do a little better than that typically. But let me do a little B-roll recording here. And what I might do actually is, see there's a little bit of laggy going on there too. See that? And let's see what we get here. There's a comment in the Amazon chat about this being, $1,800 not worth it. Here's what I would say on, and I say this all the time, and I'm not frustrated by having to say this because I think it's important context, is that you can buy a laptop that is every bit as powerful as this one for $500 or $600 with the same exact chip inside. Like, it'll do everything. The display may not be as nice, you know, but what you pay for with one of these expensive laptops is the mobility of it. So if you want thin, light, good battery life, bright display, you pay extra. That's kind of the gist of it. And Pedro K, thank you for the help there. 60 hertz. So it is locked in at 60 hertz. It is a 5120 by 3200. So it's a really nice sharp display. It looks great. All right, so in space here, I think what I'll do is I'll record some B-roll like in space going down to the planet is what I think we'll do. And we'll kind of go from there. And by the way, I don't expect a lot of viewership today because everybody's been focused on Apple. So I thought for the handful that might want to watch something else, here we go. And I stream during the day. I don't do evenings too frequently because I have family obligations at night. You know, I got to take care of the kids and everything. So this is the time that I do it. But actually, we usually do pretty well on Amazon. Typically, my streams on Amazon, you know, have about 20,000 views by the time they're done at this hour. So it's usually a good time for me to stream. And my strategy lately has been really Amazon-centric kind of strategy for the channel. Because I actually get better results on Amazon lately. And by the way, you can follow me on Amazon if you go to the link in the video description. David Burrows, thank you for the follow. Right on cue, you followed there. Good stuff. All right, so now we're in like the 25 to 30 frames per second territory here on the ground. And this game has a weird performance profile because the space stuff is nowhere near as demanding as the planet stuff is. But isn't this just a cool game? Like, it's just so expansive. And I just need to start playing it again. The VR mode is really cool. I have not played around with the VR mode too much since they had their last major update. They did a big visual overhaul. Yeah, so I would say probably like 25 FPS on No Man's Sky here. And Eyes of Buys says, iPad Pro, iPad OS with 16 gigabytes of RAM. Right, where's the Mac OS? Give me the Mac OS. I'll tell you what, if that iPad would run Mac OS, I'm in. I am in. Because I'd have exactly what I had with my little Mac 12-inch laptop before. But I don't have that now. I'd even buy that expensive keyboard to make it a Mac. I'm in. Make it run the Mac. I'm in. Black Delegation has a good question here. Never owned a computer. I'm looking for a machine to play Star Trek Online, but I have no idea what I need to buy. So maybe some folks on the chat can help with the recommendation, because I am not familiar with the Star Trek Online requirements, but I would imagine you probably need like a somewhat competent gaming laptop and, you know, perhaps, you know, like a Lenovo Legion 5. You can usually get those under $1,000, you know, kind of a mid-range NVIDIA GPU or something. That should work out pretty well. Lorenzo wants to know about the webcam. It's a 720p webcam. We looked at that a little while ago. The big issue that I have with it is that you've got to angle the display a little more closer to you to get yourself in frame, because I found that it was angled at a kind of a weird angle, and I'll point that out in the review. And let's see, I don't have my usual moderators here today, so I may be missing some chats, so I apologize if I missed it. And there's a few chats from before that I missed. Ed Horn had a good one about electric cars. Let me see if I can find that. Wow, I missed a lot of chats here. Maybe I'm behind on my chat screen. Cedar Lake is here. Any thoughts on the Ryzen USB 4 laptops will hit the market? I've been looking because I have been trying to get a 5500U-based machine in. Lenovo's got a new Flex 5 that has it. I've got one on the way from HP once they're available. The big issue that we're running into right now is that electronic shortage that we talked about. So that's been kind of driving things in a tough direction. Aaron Johnson, does this have a webcam? As I mentioned, it's got it right up top here. So you've got that. David Campbell posted on the Amazon chat that the Star Trek Online recommended requirements, it's pretty low actually, a Core 2 Duo, but it does want some kind of GPU. So, you might be able to get away with like an AMD-based laptop. I would look at, and again, I haven't played the game, so I'm not going to say definitively, but I would look at one of the lower price laptops. The Lenovo Flex 5 is a great example, which I was just talking about. They have one with an AMD 4500U processor inside. The one that was on Amazon for a while, I think it's still available, has 16 gigs of RAM. For the price point, it's probably the best value-packed machine that you'll find on Amazon. And that one might be worth taking a look at. All right, so we're going to quit to desktop here. I got what I needed out of No Man's Sky here. And hopefully the Red Dead Redemption, it's queued up because we were playing the game. Oh no. Let's see how much farther it has to go here. I may have to plug in some Ethernet and speed this up. All right, let me go back to the beginning here. Yeah, I'm like following 4 different things at once, so my attention is drifting from one thing to the other here as I'm trying to keep track of everything that's going on in front of me at the moment. All right, let's see. Oh, and I think I mentioned tomorrow we're doing that electric car thing. I know Ed Horn had made a comment on that. Let me see if I can find his comment here. So in relation to the electric car discussion, in Connecticut to find a place to charge. If you have a Tesla, it's actually very easy. There are Tesla superchargers all over the place. I've got probably 3 of them within a 20-mile radius of where I live right now, which is surprising because before, when I first got my Tesla, there was no place to charge them. But they've been putting in a lot of superchargers all over the place. And one of the things about the Tesla, which is nice, is that, and this is true of the Model 3 along with the S and the other ones, the range on them is really good. And Isabide says we can be glad that Apple kicked out Fortnite because M1 iPad Pro would go to all those players, right? It's true. They'd all be running that. Paul here says that the Star Trek Online minimum requirements of GPU is the Intel HD 2000. Yeah, so you should be fine. I would get one of those AMD Ryzen 4500Us. The Flex 5 on Amazon is probably your best bet. It's a nice machine. It's a 2-in-1. I think it even came with a pen when I got mine. And I've recommended that to a few people who've been very happy with them. MG Fur wants to know, greater than gigabit on laptops. Is there a laptop with more than a gigabit port? I'm assuming for Ethernet. I have not seen one yet. I suspect that we will soon, and my gut is it'll be a 2.5 gig port. So I would say probably in the next year or two you'll see that. It's a matter of consumer demand, like what's going to drive people to, for what kind of ports do they want, right? Because right now this thing is downloading super slow. So I might actually, I'm trying to think about how I'm going to engineer this. I've got this little thing here. Oh, you know what I have? Where did I put it? I know what I'm going to grab. Just bear with me here, folks, for 1 second, because I have the solution in my bag that I forgot about. And now, as I'm futzing around in my bag here, don't forget that Intel was slamming Apple over this dongle thing the other day, right? Remember what I was talking about that? Well, guess what I'm doing? I'm looking for dongles because, where did it go? Maybe I put it back already. I'm looking for dongles because my little laptop here that we're demoing only has 2 ports. So we're kind of stuck, but there is, I thought I put it away here. But I have this one, so this will work. No, this won't work because it doesn't do power delivery. So herein lies the problem, right? So here's a Thunderbolt dock. Look at that. It's got everything except power delivery, right? And then I've got this thing, which does power delivery, but I lack, actually, you know what? I could plug this into that, and then I'll have both. So here's how we're going to solve the problem. We're going to go multi-dongle. So we're going to take this dongle, and we're going to put it in here to power the laptop. And then I'm going to connect another dongle, this thing. See this U-green thing? We're going to plug this thing into here. And then I'm going to plug my network cable into that. And that will give us the ability to speed up this download and get this done a little quicker. So you are not immune from the dongle problems just because you're on Windows. Let's just put it that way. And the odd thing is it's all the flagship laptops that are driving that. So now we are on Ethernet, and my speed of the download here is now increasing dramatically. So we were running about 40 megabytes before, and now we're pushing close to gigabit. So that's good. So let that continue there. So Ed Horn drives an H3. I'm assuming it's a Hummer 3. When I go to video contradiction sites, the ride is a little better than a Jeep. You know, there is I'm going to interview this guy tomorrow. Rivian has an electric pickup truck, and then they've got a version of it with a bed, and then they've got another version that looks like a Range Rover. So I'm talking to that guy tomorrow. He actually used to work for Tesla doing the same job. So glad we can help you, Black Delegation, with your computer shopping needs. And I would look, again, for something powered with a Ryzen 4500U, because those are not very expensive. The key thing with the Ryzen-based machines is, and this is something that unfortunately a lot of manufacturers don't get, dual-channel memory is really important. So if you're looking, that Lenovo that I talked about is great. Let me see if they still have it here. Because it has 16 gigs of RAM, and it's configured. Yeah, this is it here. I'm going to add this to the product carousel. And so you can click through on the Amazon link and find it. Because what's nice about it, and let me go back to my Amazon thing here real quick, is that it's in dual channel. It's got plenty of RAM. It's $630. I don't know what your budget is, but it's pretty reasonable. Here, let me pull up the computer on screen here for you so you can get a good view of it. And yeah, I will say though, I like this laptop. It feels nice. Doesn't run, you know, Mac OS, right? But it feels nice. All right, so let me drop this into another window here. So let me pull this up because I think this is the one that I would recommend for your particular situation. Because this should run Star Trek Online without too many issues here. So, and you see that I bought this one to review it. And I have a review on my YouTube channel. And what's nice is that this is one of the few products that Lenovo sells directly through Amazon. Now, I want to give you the caveat up front that there is apparently a 5500U version, which has an upgraded processor that might be a little bit faster. But I think for what you want to run, you're going to be very happy with this one. Because you've got 16 gigs of RAM, 1080p display, 14-inch. It's a 2-in-1. It comes with a pen. I think does it come with the pen? Yeah, it comes with the pen. So, I mean, I think as computers go, it has something for everybody. And the graphics performance out of it, while not as good as a gaming laptop, it will run a lot of stuff. And if you go on the page here, at the bottom, if you scroll where's my review? There is a review that I did of this laptop that should be on the page. They have my unboxing and teardown. I got to see what's going on with the review, but I do have a review posted of this one. And I would watch the review and make sure it does everything you're looking for, because I found that one to be a really good machine for the money. And let me just manage this real quick. Yeah, they do some algorithmic things sometimes on these Amazon reviews. So sometimes the video pops up and other times it doesn't. Yeah, it's definitely linked to that. So it just may not be showing up at the moment. But check it out, because I think it's a really good value. Just my 2 cents. All right, so let's take a look here at what we've got here. Lorenzo wants to know, how much is the Flex 5? It's about $630 right now, which I honestly think is a good price for all that you're getting, because a lot of these laptops, you have to upgrade something, you've got to put more memory in, and that one just kind of does it all. All right, so we got to let this thing finish up here. So we'll do that, and it should be done in a minute. Kenneth Mullen missed the GPU specs. So this one is running, maybe I'll put this in the chat too, so everyone can get a good sense as to what we've got here. So this particular one, the one that we're looking at today, this one, again, is a higher end laptop. It has the i7 with the G7 graphics, the Intel Evo. So this is, and I think this one has 16 gigs of RAM. The RAM on these is not upgradable. It's all soldered on, which I know a lot of folks don't like to have soldered RAM on their ThinkPads. So, but at least it's 16 gigs, right? So let's see, the specs. i7, so this is an i7, oops, 1160 G7 with Evo. I think that's like the Iris Plus graphics, I guess. Is that what they call it? And I'll pin that chat message so you can all see that. So it's a nice little machine. And we're just waiting on this game to finish downloading. But the good thing is, after this downloads, so what I do with my game testing stuff is I load everything onto an external SSD, because with Steam, you have the ability to run everything off of external drives. So what's nice about this is that when Jake sits down to work on a review of a computer, so Jake gets these things all set up for me and runs all the benchmarks and gets everything ready for the video, is that it is a lot quicker to just have everything loaded up on the SSD so that we can just get started with it. There's some talk about Pop OS. What is Pop OS? I should know what Pop OS is. I'm going to play around with that a little bit. Yeah, we're going to run Ubuntu on it in a minute. I just wanted to get this downloaded. Yeah, so in case you're wondering, when you're downloading like Red Dead Redemption 2, it's 111 gigabytes. Now, I've got a gigabit Ethernet adapter attached, and this will run at a gigabit speed typically. But what I found, here's what's been funny about my experience with this internet connection that I have. What I have found is that not every site you connect to, actually most, will not give you the full width of your pipe. So I can download and upload at 2 gigabits symmetrical. And typically, like with Steam, occasionally it'll get into the 100 megabyte per second territory, which is what you would expect on a gigabit connection. And that's what I would love to see right now with this one, because that would certainly speed up the process here. But more often than not, I'm seeing a lot of sites kind of cap out at half a gigabit. And I'm guessing that's to load balance on their end, right? Because they're probably trying to serve, obviously, many multiples of users at the same time. Yeah, for me, and granted, I am a Luddite on Linux for the most part. I understand it. I know how to install it. I know how to run it. I know some of the basics with it. But for me, what I like to test on these videos is Ubuntu. And just because I feel like it's kind of the default. And there's a lot of distributions that are kind of based off of it. So if it'll boot Ubuntu and successfully detect everything, that's usually kind of the benchmark that I run against with it. And they've got a pretty good amount of resources behind them over there too. So that seems to work pretty well for me and for reviewing. All right, you know what we'll do? Let's see what else we have on here that I could demo, because we've got most of the other stuff done already on this one. So I'm just waiting for the rest of it to come down. And you've got, of course, the nub here. And let's take a look and see what the display is set to. So we'll go to display settings. So this display, in case anyone's wondering, is a 2160 by 1350, and it is running at 60 hertz. And that seems to be the maximum refresh rate that it supports. Jeffrey wants to know, do I ever review tower PCs? Occasionally I do. We get in, it's funny because I'm seeing less and less of them. I think the PC market has been so heavily focused on laptops just because my guess is that most consumers buy a laptop and now use it as a desktop, given that there's not a huge performance disparity anymore. But I do get them in occasionally. We get the mini PCs a lot more than the towers, but Lenovo does make tower PCs, and they occasionally send us stuff to look at. And if there are specific ones you're looking at, let me know. I'll try to get some in. And then we have some more discussion here on the Linux stuff. We're just waiting for this to finish downloading. RMN Sense Account says, Ubuntu is a good distro to test hardware, but to baseline other distros, you can use Fedora. Right, of course, Red Hat is that was the foundation of Red Hat, right? The core stuff is pure there. It's funny, we had, at my old job, we had we did a installation of a warehouse management system, and we had a choice between Windows and Red Hat. And we went with Red Hat just because it was more cost effective. We didn't have to buy licenses for it. I think we bought the physical media. But once you're installed, like all the other stuff that you'd be paying licenses for, you didn't need to do. And let me tell you, it was and Jeffrey Powers points out, I hated Red Hat. And I hated it too because I didn't understand how to, like the Windows servers I was fine with, but the Red Hat thing I was afraid to play with. And they brought this guy down who was like this system administrator somewhere who did like configuration work on the side. And he was just like, he was so dialed into Red Hat. You could almost see him just configuring the computer with his mind. He had it so, he made such a complex installation, I had no idea what the heck was going on. But that system, I kid you not, if that thing ran for like over a year without having to reboot, it was just rock solid. The guy installed only what was absolutely necessary to run on it. Everything else that was not required to make it work was off. And that thing was the most reliable server I had ever used in my life. The problem we ran into with it was that there was some kind of upgrade, some kernel upgrade, whatever it was. I can't remember exactly what the circumstances were. But we got stuck on the version of Red Hat that we had. And because this guy came in and configured everything, I was afraid to try to reinstall it from scratch because that's what we had to do. Like we couldn't upgrade it in place. It had to be like completely overhauled. And so that was the end of that. Zach Zoom says, compare it to the M1 Mac. Oddly, I hate to say this because it's a really tough comparison now, because the M1 Macs are kind of in a class of their own at this point from a performance standpoint. And we don't have I don't know if we've got a real apples to apples benchmark beyond like one of these 3D Mark things that I ran on it. But and I think that's a good point that you made, because I think I should mention the M1 Mac, because this is going up against the MacBook Pro, for example, with the M1. And you will see better performance out of that M1 MacBook Pro. It's a little heavier. So if you want something really lightweight, I think this one is going to be competitive on the hardware design. But it may not be competitive performance-wise or battery life-wise, right? So those are the two things that I think might make the difference. This one has a cooling fan. The M1s graphically are much faster than the Intel chips are, even the latest ones. The Sim Architect is here. Hello. And we've got my tech guy Tim joining us on the Amazon chat. He says, got it all today. No B4, KB4Con, Apple, and Lon. That's right. Everyone's coming in after the Apple event. What I figured I would do is I couldn't cover the Apple event because I can't show their video. So what I had was like this PC on the screen while I was, I was relaying what I was seeing. And what we're trying to do here is I'm just trying to collect some B-roll footage. I forgot to mention to Jake that he's got to start running this Red Dead Redemption on some of these laptops as we test them. We're just installing the 111 gigabyte download here. And maybe people are off from school or work today, because usually midday I can download Steam stuff at close to a gigabit, and we're kind of hopping along here at about 2/3 of that. So we're almost done. But can the M1 run Crysis? Well, you know what's funny about that? When we were testing out parallels with the Mac M1, the MacBook Air, it's on my desk as a matter of fact, it was running Windows games better than the Intel one did without running in virtualization. So it's good. And really, I think what the strength of the M1 is that it has faster onboard graphics. I think that's making the difference. I think if you were looking at like hardcore computational stuff, the Intel chips will probably still win out there. And from a video encoding standpoint, the M1 does about the same as Intel. I think what Apple has very smartly done with the M1, and I've talked about this before, is that Apple has looked at, and they know this because they have a good idea as to what people are doing with their computers, right? And because they own the stack, they own the hardware and the software, Apple's able to figure out, okay, what are the top things that people are doing with our computers? And let's design hardware that optimizes for that, right? And so that's what they did. And I think that permeates into some of even the Intel software that runs on the M1, because Apple has been pushing developers to be using the Apple APIs, which are more easily translated between platforms. And so they can optimize the APIs in a specific way, optimize the hardware for those APIs in a specific way, and voila, your Intel software runs better on M1 than it does on Intel. And is it smoke and mirrors? Maybe not. But what it is I think it's that Apple has optimized for what most users do with their computers. The challenge on the Intel side is that people use them for a lot of different things. So, case in point, like this laptop in particular, here's what I would do. Tune into any one of those NASA live streams when they're landing something on a planet, right? And you look around the room, everyone's got a Mac or a Dell or whatever. And, they're like, that use case of landing things on another planet is probably like 1/3 of 1% of what people do with a PC. But the Intel PC has to do all that, and I think that's kind of important to think about. So Apple has looked at, hey, we're a consumer technology company. Let's build a hardware platform around what consumers do with our computers. And Microsoft and Intel and Windows and even AMD, they don't have that luxury, because these are, they're in so many more markets than Apple is. So Apple has some advantages in that they can optimize their hardware for a specific market segment. But I'll tell you what, though, the performance on the M1 is outstanding. And I kid you not, I am using my MacBook Air as my daily driver computer. I do all my editing on it. I upload videos on it. I use it as much as I was using my Mac. My MacBook Pro, my 15-inch that I bought 4 years ago, it's going to Jake soon because I'm just not using it. I just don't want to use it anymore. It feels sluggish and slow, and this thing is just so much faster. My tech guy Tim says, my first IT job was working with Red Hat servers, and I love that I got Linux experience starting out. He's all Windows now. Only Linux he has is FreeNAS for his Plex server at home. Yeah, I want to get into Linux more. I like the idea of an OS that doesn't have, whoa, what time is it? Oh, it's 2:30. So here's a funny thing that just happened. So it just felt like I had an earthquake here, but we didn't. There's a company about 1.5 miles up the road. They have a rock quarry. And on Tuesdays at 2:30 p.m., they blow up something. And that was a big one they just tagged, because the whole house just shook. But I was checking the time. If it's at 2:30, then it's them, because they do it right at 2:30. If it's a real earthquake, which we've had here on occasion, it's not at 2:30. Okay, so we're almost there, everybody. It's almost done. Oh, actually, did I look at the... I just looked at a ThinkPad with Ryzen. I'm not sure which one it was. Oh, I looked at the ThinkBook. That's right. And I think I looked at the L1 Gen 1 last year. But yeah, generally, the people at Lenovo know, and they know this a lot because I tell them all the time, they know that you all want to see more Ryzen stuff. So whenever they have a Ryzen available for the reviewer team there, they send it to me. So we will definitely check that one out. For sure. And Reese Armstrong is 13 and going to get Linux Plus certified this summer. Awesome. You know, Reese, I am so jealous of you because when you're 13, and I'm not going to talk down to you because of your age here. I'm just saying, just I want you to be aware of what you have right now. What you have is time. And take advantage of the time that you have to learn as much as you can with the stuff that really interests you. Because when you get out of college and into the workforce, you're not going to have that time to tinker and learn anymore. And I really valued, when I was your age, I had so much time. For me back then, it was learning DOS and Windows and BBS systems. I ran a BBS when I was about your age. So, you know, just take advantage of all the time that you have. Actually, it's funny, I got all my tech stuff figured out at that age. And then I also started doing TV stuff because I had a little TV show on the local cable access channel at 13 too. So all the things I'm doing now, the foundations began when I was your age. So I am so happy that you're doing that because it's so, you know, if you know what you like and you know like what you want to learn, it is you're in such a great spot at your age because you have the time to really dig into it. So, and now with everything, so when I was a kid, you couldn't get Windows for free. We didn't have the speed to download it even illegally, right? So, you know, and let alone a real functional Linux operating system for that matter. That didn't really come till a little bit later. So I was 13 in 1989, and yeah, 1989 I was 13. So we didn't have all this free stuff. You couldn't even get a programming language for free. I had BASIC for free on my Apple. That was it. Actually, this was my computer that I used when I was 13, that very one. So that's great. And what the Sim Architect says, plus it's much easier. Yeah, I think younger brains are just wired better than older ones, for sure. So just take as much time as you want. Reese loves working with Linux and servers. Been having a debacle with Supermicro. Yeah, you are all set. You're going to be. You're in good shape, really. So, Cheryl McDonald says, "I'm 54 and my brain is wired fine." Maybe what it is for me is that I have 2 young children, And they sleep through the night, of course. But, you know, I think for whatever reason, like when you have young kids in the house, like once I had kids, I stopped sleeping well. And it's not that I'm worried or anxious or anything. It's just that every little noise just wakes me up. And then I've had this problem since I was Reese's age. Whenever I'm awake, even like if I get just slightly woken up in the middle of the night, my brain just starts going. And part of it is that I'm always thinking about what do I need to do next for the channel, because that's my job now, is doing this stuff. And I'm constantly like thinking about what I got to do next on whatever it is that's in my head. And so once I'm awake, and then so I don't think I sleep as well as I used to. And I think that's impacting my my functionality and my productivity. I'm still very productive. I don't feel like I'm losing my capacity, but I feel like, I think because I'm so tired is what could be causing that. What doesn't help either is that I think I should stop my afternoon coffee, because I think that contributes to it. But also what happens is that if I hear a noise upstairs with the kids, I'm like, because when they were babies, like you're constantly waking up to deal with whatever the baby's dealing with, you know, whatever the baby needs. So last night, I could hear them not only when they make noise, but when they move around. So last night, my daughter, around 1, I was sleeping, but then I heard something moving upstairs, which was my daughter, which woke me up. And so she came downstairs to get a glass of water and then came back up. But she, it's funny, she moved so slowly down the stairs, you could hear thump, thump, thump. She doesn't like to slip on the stairs. It's kind of funny. Sim Architect says, yeah, this is it. Right? Like you wake up in the middle of the night to see if a subscriber has a request or something. Yeah, you want to serve your audience. Exactly. And that's part of it too. Yeah, especially on a night that I post a video. Because I post my videos around like 6:45 p.m. Eastern time. And so the comments will come in all night. And I'm trying to keep an eye on stuff, right? So that's, especially the video I did last night. I was expecting some backlash on that one. Cheryl McDonald said, I sleep through anything as long as I get to sleep. Then the world could explode and I never know it. See, that's how I used to sleep. I used to be like totally out. Not anymore. All right, we're almost here. 4 minutes, and then we can finish this up and run the Linux stuff on it. Vivi Garnett says, maybe she has elephant feet. She totally has elephant feet. Totally. Because you could hear her just moving. Like, I heard her get out of bed, because she's upstairs, I'm downstairs. So I heard that, and then I heard, and you could hear her kind of going through the house, down the stairs, into the kitchen. And I was fully expecting her to come into the bedroom, and she didn't. So I was like, what the heck's going on? Because I heard the cabinet open. I heard the little water thing on the refrigerator going. And then I heard no child coming into the bedroom. So I said, this is unusual. Usually like it's, I can't sleep, I had a bad dream. And yeah, the sim architect, exactly. I think she doesn't want to make any noise, but she ends up making a lot more noise because she's trying to avoid making noise. And what's funny is my 8-year-old is she's very considerate of others. I'm so proud of her because she's such a good kid. And she is very mindful of waking other people up or disturbing other people or being rude. So she's hypersensitive to, sometimes too much, to making sure she doesn't disturb other people. But the opposite happened there. So Greg M's got clients calling. Yeah, work happens during the day. So this is my work today. Yeah, I do these Amazon streams 2 or 3 times a week. And actually, we're going to have another one out probably on Fridays. I've got like I have a couple of big things happening Wednesday and Thursday. So Friday, I'm going to try to take it easy. I'm going to try to shoot this tomorrow in between other things. And then Friday, I'm going to do that magazine from the Game Foundation again. Those are always fun to do. Cheryl says that Lenovo's are the only laptops that she buys. The service is the best. Last one had 24-hour turnaround from the service center in Atlanta. Yeah, you know what's funny is Lenovo is so big. Like they are, you think of Apple as a big company, and they are from a market cap perspective, and certainly on the mobile phones and the tablets and stuff. But from a market share perspective on computers, Lenovo, I think it's like HP and Lenovo are the 2 big ones, and like Dell is number 3. So Lenovo is just an enormous company that has an expansive global footprint, and you know they're pretty good at servicing stuff too. I bought So the deal with Lenovo is that they send me their computers on loan. And I like to look at a lot of the stuff that other reviewers don't look at. So we get a lot of neat things in from them. And it's good content, right? And generally the laptops are pretty good. And what I like about, because I've been reviewing these now, and I review other brands too. I review HP, I review Dell. You know, I've got contacts at each of these companies. But Lenovo has more products, I think, than anyone else. And they just send me everything. And what's funny is that whenever I find something that's not good, the following year's product will have fixed the problem, right? Like they had, for a while, their keyboards had this weird, the arrow keys were all messed up, and they fixed it the following year. Now, it's not just me that is causing them to change their product line, but I think they're good at taking constructive criticism. Let's put it that way. Kimberly Knapp, thank you for the follow on Amazon. Cheryl McDonald says, I have 6 Lenovo laptops and 3 tablets. I've had all of them, but Lenovo is the only one I've really never had serious issues with. And you know what's funny is that everyone has different experiences with different brands. So it's kind of funny how people's experiences vary. All right. Let's wait for this to finish up here. So by the way, I did this video on my vaccine experience. I thought it'd be useful for people to know what it's like to go through it, which I had a fine experience. I mean, you know, felt a little sick or whatever. I can't believe some of the vitriol that created. It's not a lot. I think it's a very small portion of the audience. But some of the comments I've gotten are really nasty. Most of them are fine, but I've had to turn the comments to require pre-approval by me or one of the moderators because some of them are just awful. All right, so we're going to boot up Red Dead Redemption here and see if it runs. After all that time, it better run. The good news is now it's on the hard drive, so I've got it on here now. So now when I plug in another computer, this is going to boot up just fine without having to re-download. It'll download updates onto that drive, but I don't have to reconfigure anything. So all right, let's wait for this to come together here. So Cheryl's worked in IT for 30 years. We had every brand. Dell's on-site service used to be good, but they cut the on-site techs pay to nothing, so they lost most of the good techs they had. Yeah, Dell went through some pretty big changes. Because remember, Dell was a public company. Okay, so it looks like I got to update my Intel video driver. So that's why it's pulling up the support page here. So why don't we grab the latest Intel video drivers, and then we can do a fair comparison. Let's do a quick old Google search here. And I'm just going to do the automatic thing. Let's get started. All right, download and run. So we'll do the automatic driver install here. Kazi wants to know, what browser do I recommend that is built on Chromium? You know which one I like is the Brave browser. I've been using that one quite a bit. I had some issues with it on the Mac for a while, and they fixed it. Oh, by the way, so we're talking to Cheryl's husband, not Sean, not Cheryl, by the way. Thanks, thanks, Sean. Yeah, sometimes I noticed it's funny on Amazon. I've noticed that a lot of my male viewers on Amazon are logging in through their spouse's account. So it's often like the spouse's name, but the husband talking to me, which is kind of funny. All right, restart required. So we got to restart before we can get these drivers installed. Windows will shut down in less than a minute. Okay, that's fine. I'm okay with that. There it goes. All right, so we got to reboot real quick. Nitrax wants to know, how's the keyboard on this? Yeah, so it is much, so if you like the longer travel of ThinkPads, and I'm going to make this note in my notes here. If you like the long travel in ThinkPads, this one has a much shorter travel. And I would actually, I'm just putting this into my notes right here. It's more similar to the IdeaPad versus some of the other ThinkPads. So if you like the longer travel of the ThinkPad, you're going to probably, it's a good keyboard, but it definitely has a different travel than before. Reminisce account here says, my college admission test venue uses all Lenovo stuff, specifically ThinkCenter. Yeah, so that's the other thing, is that they have, they have these huge corporate and education deals, so they move a lot of volume. So when you think about it, like the PC market overall, the consumer side is kind of on the smaller end of the scale. And thanks for the comments on the vaccine video. Yeah, I felt it was important just because, I always do what my doctor recommends I do, right? But for this one, I wanted to learn more about it, so I thought it would be helpful to share the thought process that I went through to make the decision, because it's not like you have to get it, but I made the choice to get it. And what I made clear in the video was that I'm not telling you what to do. I did what was right for me based on the set of circumstances that I articulated. But it's become so polarized that some people just can't listen to another point of view. And I'm happy to listen to people that don't want to get it. That's totally fine. I'm not going to tell you to do something, but respect my position. All right, so we're going to install, they call this the generic graphics driver. They should come up with something better than generic graphics driver. All right, so let's do that. Nope. Hang on. All right, I hit install again. Oh, no. Click this, click install. Yes, there we go. All right, so now we're going to install the driver here. And it looks like a lot of people agree with me on Brave. Yeah, the one issue that I have with Brave is the syncing. They've been working on trying to improve it. I would like it to synchronize the wallet and the settings for the Brave revenue thing, right? Because I'll have all these things set up on one computer, and then when I go to the other one, it's like a whole, like, you know what I mean? Like there's some, so what they do, it's just a long story, but what Brave does, and it's kind of a really neat idea, is they're building a way to target advertising without having stuff live on a server. So the browser kind of creates a profile about your browsing habits, but it doesn't share it with the server. So what happens is the Brave whatever will send the browser a bunch of ads, and it'll say, okay, this ad is for somebody that's into X, Y, or Z. And so the browser will deliver that to you, but not report anything, I think, beyond like a blind impression back to the Brave people. So when you think about all these cookies and all these different things that track you, the way the Brave browser works is that it is kind of holding on to your personal information and not sharing it. And it will the browser is going to choose the ad instead of the server somewhere else choosing and following you. That's kind of the concept behind it. And the neat thing related to how that works is that Brave has a revenue share program. So when you watch an ad, they give you a share of the revenue, and you can choose to pocket the revenue, or you can automatically contribute the revenue to sites that you're visiting, including YouTube channels, which is cool. But so it's cool how it works. And they have their own, of course, it's like their own cryptocurrency. So it's called the BAT, or Basic Attention Token. And that's what they use. And it's pretty cool. The problem, though, is that I can say, they have like an escrow thing. So let's say I'm watching a YouTube channel on a regular basis, and they haven't signed up with this Brave Rewards thing. They will actually, for a period of time, hold on to the revenue that I would like to contribute to that site, right? And then it does it automatically, though, based on how much time you spend on each channel or website. So then you can go in and exclude who you don't want to get money given to. So for example, like I don't think a lot of these big media companies need my bat. They're not going to accept it anyhow. So I have them be ignored so that a greater portion of the funds go to the independent creators that I look at. So if I set up those settings on one computer, it doesn't follow to another. So I have to go constantly in each computer that I'm on, adjust things wherever I go. But from a privacy perspective, it's great. Brave actually, I found, even with an ad blocker enabled on, why is it doing this? It must have had another Windows update. What is going on here? I don't want to do any of this. Cancel, there we go. Okay. All right, so now we're back in the graphics setup program here. So let's see. I think it just did this, but we'll let it do it again. Okay. Click next. No. I think we're good on that. I think I should see the Intel graphics now. Let's see what happens. Okay, so let me just go back into my Steam account and let's load the game up here. But that said, I think I found with Brave that even with an ad blocker on Chrome, Brave runs faster than Chrome, if you do like one of those browser benchmarks that we do. So Pieman doesn't like my cup. You don't like my cup? This is my University of Hartford mug. I will move it over here so you don't have to see it. There we go. Cheryl McDonald says, or Sean, I should say, 3 of them got their vaccine. They were all high risk. Yeah, everyone's got a choice to make. All right, so I got to do this driver thing again. Hang on. So we may not be able to get this to run after all this work. Or I could just download the drivers manually. Maybe I'll do that instead. Let's try this again. But this is a test machine, so I just have Chrome installed on it. I didn't install Brave on there. And Firefox is good too. Yep. Lorenzo wants to know, does it have a backlight on the keyboard? Yes. Yeah, it does have a backlight on the keyboard. It's just going to be a single color. It's not going to be all fancy like your other stuff. The Sim Architect felt more comfortable with Chrome. That's a good thing. You got choices out there, right? So it's good stuff. And Brave now has a version on the M1 Mac. So they have an M1 version, which is really fast. And I'm going to get one of those air tags. So I'm going to order the air tag, and I'm going to order the new Apple TV 4K. They have a really cool, they've got a really cool feature of the new Apple TV 4K, where if you have an iPhone 12, of course you have to have all this Apple stuff, you've got to go and put the phone, or you can put the phone up to the TV, and because they control the hardware on the phone and they know what things should look like, the phone will calibrate your display. And I'm guessing the Apple TV will calibrate its output to whatever settings you have the TV at, I guess. I don't know how it's going to work. But I'm eager to try that. I thought that was neat. All right, so let me grab Intel. Yeah, so this is Apollo Lake, Gemini Lake, Amber Lake, Whiskey Lake, Comet Lake. That's Rocket Lake. Now we have, let's see. We got to look for Tiger Lake, I think is what this one is, right? So make sure that is the case. Yes. Okay, so Intel Tiger Lake drivers. Actually, maybe the 11th generation. And I'm guessing that there's probably a faster way to find this stuff. But it could be that it just doesn't. So where do we download this? Let's go download from Intel's website. Okay, here we go. Okay, Intel DCH drivers. I think this is what I downloaded, but let's see what happens here. Okay, so these are a little bit bigger than what I had before. So I'm just going to download the exe and just do this super quick. All right, we're almost there. Okay, let's try this again. All right, so we go to next. Yes, next. It seems like these drivers have already been installed, but let's restart one more time and see what happens. If not, I'm going to give up on it. And then we'll try the Linux side of things out and see where we end up with that. And we'll give that a shot. And Sean says, uBlock origin and done. Yeah, I run that on my Chrome browser. And you know, when I was working in IT, we actually installed the ad blockers just as a security mechanism because there was so much malware sneaking through ads. They were getting injected into advertising on websites, and all it took was like to have one computer that wasn't fully updated to whatever. We had a warehouse computer that just got hit with ransomware, and thankfully the guy was on his lunch break and he was browsing a message forum he was a motorcycle guy. He was browsing a message forum on motorcycles, and the ransomware came in through a display ad, just an ad that was running on the thing. All right, rebooting. Okay, here we go. All right, so we are back up here. It looks like it's not asking me to install anything again. So let's see if it, now this is the absolute latest version of the Intel driver. And now I've got to log in. Sorry, everybody. I don't even remember what my password is. Let me go over to Steam here real quick and see if I can. This is why I don't play games anymore, because I just can't get anything to run quickly. There we go. Buy now. I already bought it. That's online. I don't want to play online. I just want to play the game. My library. Okay, loading. Oh, I guess it's loading now. So we're getting a little further now. We're not getting the error that we were getting before. And it says loading, so we're going to assume this is going to work. Dizzy Desi, thank you for the follow on Amazon. Much appreciated. Paul, sorry. I get these chats every once in a while on Amazon. From people thinking that that I work for Amazon. So unfortunately, I do not work for Amazon. So I cannot help you with canceling your order. We are all independent content creators. Okay, here we go again. The driver, please update your driver to 2720.100.8681 or newer. And that's what I have on here, I think. So let's check our settings. So I got to run in a few minutes. So I think what I might do is let's check the graphics drivers on here. And if we are running with that driver, then it's possible that this isn't going to work. So let's go to the display properties and jump into the driver version. Driver 27.20.100.94. So I'm actually running a newer version of the driver, but it is just not cooperating. But now it looks like, even though I hit OK, before it dropped me out, but now it looks like it's loading, so we may have gotten past it. So let's see what happens. This only took 2 hours to get to this point. So MD says, let's see what this has got. I agree. Let's see what it's got. We'll take a look. I don't have high expectations, but we did, what did we do last week? We ran Red Dead on an AMD Ryzen ThinkBook. And that actually was like in the 30 frames per second territory, so that wasn't bad. Let me enable my controller again here. So it's conceivable that we might get something actually running on this, but we'll take a look. Jeffrey McKillen wants some here. I've got some ideas for you on this one. First thing is just start. Like that's the key to everything, is just get started, because you could spend a lot of time like trying to figure out what's going to work and what's not. What I have found to work really well, and I base it like on my own viewing and listening habits. So I used to listen to podcasts a lot more when I was commuting to work every day. But I walk my dog and listen to podcasts and stuff. And what I have found is that I am discovering more podcasts through YouTube, believe it or not, because some of these guys, like Joe Rogan was doing this before he went to, before he switched over to Spotify. What they were doing is taking portions of their interviews that they were doing, and they would put them on YouTube as videos. And I have discovered a lot of podcasts that way, because if you've got like a short 9 or 10 minute clip, it's a good way to discover the greater podcast. I don't know if any of you know, like Pat Contry is a retro game guy. Like he does that kind of stuff too. All right, this is like a cutscene that I can't seem to get out of here, so I can hit A to skip. Because I think we have a save game already synced up. And I don't know what the frame rate is at the moment here, so let's get through this part. It's running. It feels like it's like in a 25-ish frames per second right now, which is about what I would expect out of this. All right, Reese Armstrong's got to go, but thanks for stopping by, and good luck to you on your certification. And yeah, use all that time you got, because it looks like you're off to a good start doing that. Ed Horn wants to know, any ideas for an old Windows 7 computer to run as a Plex server? I would say some version of Ubuntu. You strip it down, because if you've got an Intel chip that supports QuickSync, you could get a good amount of hardware decoding done on it. All right, let me just check my settings real quick here. This is oh, graphics are different than display. So what's interesting is right now it's running at the native resolution. I'm going to turn this. Oops, I'm going to turn this down. Oops, because, and I just screwed it up. I'm going to turn this down because I want to do an apples to apples against some of the AMD stuff that we've been looking at. And I'm just going to turn everything down here. It was set to like high everything. Oh, let me go back up here. Yeah, we're going to go like super low settings here, favorite performance. And why is this still stuck on screen here? Okay, there we go. All right. Okay, so there we go. So now I think we're at 1080p now, so we should see a little letterboxing. No, it's still stretching, so let's see what's going on here. Yeah, it went back to 2160, 1920 by 1080. Yeah, everything I just set got reverted. So let's go there, apply changes. And we got to restart. Okay. And that should get us going. That's why I don't play games anymore. There's too much stuff to do to even just get into it. It kind of reminds me of, geez, what's going on now? This actually reminds me a lot of what it used to be like to play DOS games, where you had to have these boot disks configured and all this other stuff. It's just a pain. All right, we're getting there. And we should be in good shape shortly here. It's giving me the graphics warning again. Oh my gosh. Okay, so now it is not doing what it was supposed to do, which was to make it full screen. So we got to go back in and adjust that setting. All right, almost there. All right, so let's see if we can get this to be full screen finally. Let's see if it's going to revert us back to where we were. Okay, so at least it's got the right resolution now in the settings. Okay, so now we're going to apply changes. Okay, confirm, yes. And so now it's like this weird, ugh, it's doing it again. Okay. I wonder if I need to like quit again and go back out. There we go. Okay, well see now it's still not right because it shouldn't fill the full screen up if we're at, yeah, see that? It just keeps reverting back. Apply changes. Confirm. Yes. Okay, this might be good now. I think we're good now. Nope, it went right back. And the other thing I got to figure out is how to get the frames per second up on screen, which is, I forgot to get fraps going before I started. I guess they don't have a setting for putting the frames per second on screen in Red Dead Redemption 2. If they do, let me know. And I'm just waiting for this cutscene to go through here. All right, there we go. Okay, so it looks like we're still, yeah, at the wrong settings here. All right, so let me go, first of all, let's go back into the settings here. Oh, so it is at 1080, full screen. Okay, so it's just filling the screen up, even though it's just weird. It's like it must be, unless there's a setting for the aspect ratio, perhaps, that might be having it do this. Or the computer itself is stretching it. It could be, but we're definitely at 1080p now, so I'm just gonna kind of run with it with that. And what I want to do though, I'm guessing the game doesn't have a built-in frames per second counter. And like I said, I turned everything down to the lowest quality, so I'm good there. Let me see if it's maybe under display here. It doesn't really have that option there, so I think we can. And my controller is not getting detected either. Let's go back to keyboard here. I have no controls. There it goes. Okay, now we're going. All right, let's see if I can get Fraps running here while we're doing this. I'm going totally backwards on this, but I'm not sure if Fraps will run while it's already running, but let's see what happens. All right. Yeah, I can't get the Steam overlay. I cannot get to work with this game for some reason. And then it drops us out of our thing there. So I'm going to quit this one more time. Sorry, everybody. Partly my fault because I should have had Fraps running before I started all of this. But let's take it from the top and see if we can get this to work. So we got Fraps running. Let that minimize itself. That's up and running. And now we're going to go try this one more time. The good news is it boots and it plays. I don't think it's going to play very well. All right, we got to hit OK again. Now we've got it no longer in full screen once more, but we can fix that pretty quickly. And the Fraps isn't running either, so I've got no idea what the frame rate is of this. Okay, settings. Almost there. Yeah, so we've spent probably a good 45 minutes to an hour just trying to get. Now, granted, if you want to play the game, you can play the game. We're trying to get it to work properly for this laptop. But these are not gaming laptops. So you can see the difficulty in getting a game to run on it, especially something as intense as this one would be. So when people ask, why do you stick with those old games? It's because they're easier to run on this hardware. All right, so let's skip this again. It does run though. I mean, it's what's neat is that it does run, right? I mean, I think that's kind of cool. All right, one last time here. Let's go into settings. And let's go to display. And we're going to go, oops, that's the wrong one. We have to go to graphics. And we'll switch it into full screen. All right, confirm, yes. let's go back into the game. And we got to wait for this cutscene again to play out. But yeah, I've got no way to get a frames per second counter functioning here, so. And Nitrax says, I'm not sure if Fraps plays well with Vulkan. Yeah, I bet you that's probably the problem, isn't it? So we will just kind of let it do its thing here. I have to say, from a storytelling perspective, these guys really do it right. I have not had the chance to really play this game in the as much as I'd like to kind of go into it. I've never been a big fan of Westerns, but I just like what Rockstar does. Yeah, so we're not going to get a good frame rate here, and I'm guessing because it's because I had the Steam overlay on by default, but I'm not seeing. Let me see if I can see it in the corner there. Yeah, I'm not seeing the frames per second up in the corner where I had put it before. But let me just do a recording of the screen here, just so people can see it. Yeah, so I'm going to guesstimate this. I'm thinking like sub 20 right now. That's what it feels like to me. Like 20 to 25, if that. So this would be something you'd probably want to run at 720p to get it playable. It's not unplayable, but you can kind of feel the issues with it, right? It doesn't feel as fast as it would on a computer with its own GPU. At least the controls are the same as GTA, right? So they're pretty similar there. But at least the graphics display, right? You can see what's on the screen. Cooling fans. Cooling fans are not loud on this at all, even with this game running. Although that's kind of a problem because the in our test on the 3D Mark stress test, this came in around 79%, so you're going to get a lot of throttling as a result of the fan not being that loud. And I don't know if it's got a setting to increase the fan speed. I'll check on that in a minute. Yeah, so it's not unplayable, but it's definitely a little on the laggy side. Okay. I got what I needed out of that. So now what we're going to do is we are going to check out the Linux stuff real quick, boot up some Ubuntu and see how it handles that. So we're going to shut her down. I'm going to disconnect all this stuff from it, and then we'll reboot. And we got to figure out what the BIOS key is on this one. Okay. So let's disconnect this, reconnect this, and we're going to connect up the hard drive here, and I've got to find my USB Type-C cable for this one. Ugh. So let me go put some cables away here so I don't lose stuff. I'll be right back, and we're going to boot up Linux on this one, and we'll be good to go, and then I can probably shoot the video tomorrow. And I just got to find my, I have these really nice USB-C to USB-B connectors that I use all the time. Let's see if this one will work. Yeah, this will work. Because the little, so I've got these, and they don't make these anymore, but I really like these little hard drive things that I've got. So this is this is called the stock plop, and it's a nice aluminum case, and you just slide in these little SATA SSDs, and you've got yourself an external hard drive that you can very easily work with. So they're really nice. All right, so let's plug this in here, and let's boot her up again. And I think it might be the delete key, but let's take a look. Oh, let's not press enter. Okay, hang on. I think I missed it. Yep. So we will try it again. One more time. Let's try it again. Restart. Okay, the startup interrupt menu. Here we go. Oh, this is handy. So let's hit F1 to enter the, oh, F12. Let's do F12. We'll select a boot device, and I'm going to select my USB hard drive. See that? That's how it should be. Nice and easy. And we'll load in there. And there you go. Boom. So we'll do a try Ubuntu. The other reason why I like Ubuntu is that I don't have to install it. So I can run it on just an external drive like this and get it functional. Now what it's doing right now is it's kind of scaling the display. So we're going to, first of all, see if the brightness keys work here. There we go. So we're back to full brightness. And then I'm going to jump into the display settings and adjust it to unscale the display. Where is the display thing on here? Missing settings, there we go. You jump to too many different operating systems, you lose track of what does what. All right, the good news is Wi-Fi appears to work. I will connect it to my Wi-Fi in a second, but what I'm going to do first is adjust the scaling. So right now it's at 200% and everything's kind of big, so if we do 100%, that'll be a little bit easier to work with. That looks better. Granted, things are kind of small, but you can do fractional scaling, so you could do like, let's do 125, see how that looks. Yeah, it's a little better. Okay, good. So that's there. Sound works. Wi-Fi works. Bluetooth. Let's see if it's picking up stuff on Bluetooth. Yeah, we're good there. So let's go over to the Wi-Fi. I'm just going to connect it to my Wi-Fi network real quick. All right, we're good. And we'll record a little B-roll here. We'll go visit my YouTube channel. And we'll just watch a video.
2 times the sudsing power means 2 times the delight.
Yeah, get the sudsing power.
Clean dishes, seriously good scent.
Good dishes.
Pay for what you need with
Liberty Mutual, pay for what you need. Did you hear? Wow, it's almost like he was listening to me. Okay, so here we go. So let's hit, oops, let's hit this. So we got that going here. That's working fine. And we can do a little word processing action here. So, yeah. It's doing a little bit of clipping on the display as I'm moving things around, but I need to check that real quick.
Now, before we jump into this, I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that I paid for the clip here with my own funds. But
all right,
the game controller
so
came in free of charge from 8-Bit Dough, and the phone we're using.
So I just want to check something on the display. I'm noticing a little bit of clipping as I'm dragging windows around, so I just wanted to see what's causing that. Could just be a display setting. Yeah, it's doing a little bit of clipping as I'm dragging things around. I don't know if you probably see that. And it's at a weird, it's at like 59.74 hertz. It's not giving me like a straight 60. But that's the only thing I'm noticing here. It seems to be working fine otherwise. And I wonder if that's a function of the scaling that we're at. So let me go and try one more thing here. We'll go back to 100% and see if it's a function of the scaling that we just had. Yeah, that's better. So it was the scaling that did it. So I may re-record this real quick just to. So we can load up my review again.
Just tell me what I need to know. Where is it?
All right, hang on. So I got to turn off that because it's probably some copyrighted thing. Maybe not. Okay, we'll wait that for the finish up here. Yeah, this is fine. It's not clipping now. I think it was the scaling that we were at. All right, so let's record again here. So we've got that going. We'll load up our word processor again, and now the titles on the windows here are a little bit large, and I think that might be because we were screwing around with everything. Let me reboot it again and see if we can. What I might do is just log out and log back in if it lets me do that. Yeah, it's better. Okay, one more time. Third time's a charm, as they say. So this time, instead of looking at all these ads, we'll go to nasa.gov and just have that on screen here. And let me just adjust some things. There we go. So we got the Crew 2 mission coming up there. We can go load up our word processor, get that going. Have that on screen here. We can look at other stuff here. We can play a video. Yeah, it looks like it's running fine. Good stuff. All right, so Linux, no problem. There we go. All right. Oh, there you go. So see that? I answer questions before I even know that you've asked them. Doomed somehow says this is the spitting image of the ThinkPad T480S. You know, what's nice about this one is that it is so lightweight. And I got to run in a minute, but let's take a look. I'll show you just how, for it to shut down here. It weighs nothing. And granted, all these carbons have been really light, but they just keep getting lighter. So the weight on this one is, what is the weight? So this is under 2 pounds. Now granted, they're really fudging here. It's 1.99 pounds or 907 grams. So I think they were trying to get it like under a kilogram and under a pound, under 2 pounds. So it's super thin. And it feels really nice. So it's good there. And I got another question on Amazon from Timothy, very similar. I think I'm going to focus on this because this is the second person that's brought this up today. And about like what's the value proposition of something like this over an M1 MacBook Air? And that's a good question. You know, Windows obviously would be one reason. It's a lot lighter. This is lighter than the Air. So, and I have an Air right here, as a matter of fact. So it's got a better display, probably about the same brightness, but higher resolution. You have two Thunderbolt ports like you would have on the Air, but it won't perform as well as the M1 in a lot of the tasks that people would do with it. And I got to look at the battery life on it still, but the rated battery life from Lenovo is about 13 hours. So we'll have to see what that looks like. But a lot of people love the ThinkPads, right? They want a nice little. This is kind of like an executive computer. Like this is what you'd send the CEO out on the road trip with, is something like this. So that's what this one's all about. And then that's the other thing. I love the track point. And I've been using those track points for a long time on these Lenovo machines, but also on some of my other ones. And I don't know where it is at the moment, but I actually have a little portable keyboard for desktop computers. It's just the keyboard itself. But the thing with the keyboard here, and this might, and I have to just make sure I double check my references on this to make sure I'm correct in this statement, because I don't have another ThinkPad in right now. But the keyboard does not feel as traditionally ThinkPad-ish as a ThinkPad keyboard would, probably because it's so thin and light. So the travel isn't bad, but the real ThinkPad keyboards have a deeper travel than this one does. And it reminds me a little bit more of the IdeaPad kind of layout. So that's the one thing to think about there. Phoenix Gaming wants to know, when is the iPad 9th generation release? I don't know. What did they announce a release on the new iPad? Let's see if they said when it's coming out. Let's take a look. I'm not sure when the 9th gen is coming out. I would imagine you'll see something by the fall on the iPad, the low-end one, if that's what you're referring to. Brian Parker says, end of May for the iPad Pro. Hello, Brian Parker. Hope you're doing well. I am not getting in a Surface laptop yet. Microsoft doesn't usually send me review units, so I have to go out and buy one. Those are a little on the pricier side. I did buy the Surface Laptop Go recently, which I like a lot because I use that here in the studio, which I bought. We'll have to see. Brian Parker says he's a sucker for the new iPad. Just watch the presentation. Yeah, if it ran Mac OS 10 or OS 11 now, I would be all over it for sure. It is good stuff. All right. Well, I got to run, everybody, but I appreciate you all stopping by. I'm going to go take the dog out for a walk. I got to get a video ready to post, and then if I have time, I don't know if I'm going to have time or not. We'll see. But I might try to shoot this today, but I'll definitely shoot this one tomorrow. And I've got to actually get a live stream thing that I'm on tomorrow set up as well. But this is a nice one. It's expensive. Like, you pay for thin and light. But if you want thin and light, this is thin and light. It's lighter than the Apple stuff for sure. It's just not running OS 11. So there you go. Nitrax uses the Surface laptop. Yeah, it is a little bit noisy and toasty. It does get warm, and the fan does make some noise, for sure. The fan noise on this is not bad at all. So there you go. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for tuning in and joining me as I spent a lot of time not getting a lot of B-roll footage collected. But we will be back again in the near future, for sure. And yeah, thanks all of you for popping in. We'll have another video up tomorrow night. And in the meantime, you can watch my vaccine experience if you're curious as to what it was like. I survived. I'll do just fine. And now I'm having to deal with the vitriol of people who don't like vaccines. Hey, it is what it is. People can make their choices. I made mine. I respect yours too. Oh, the color calibration on the new Apple TV will work with the old one. So there's no point in buying the new one. Well, there you go. I guess if you need, the high, so the high frame rate is really the only reason, right? The high frame rate HDR. So that's what I'm gonna have to do some digging on that one, because my biggest complaint. Here's what I've got on my. I have my iPhone Pro 12. I can shoot 60 frames per second HDR, Dolby Vision, whatever version of it is on the phone. The problem is I can't watch the Dolby Vision stuff on anything other than the phone screen itself. And I tried to do the AirPlay to the iPad Pro 4K that I have, and it doesn't look as good as it does on the iPhone screen, even on my OLED TV upstairs. It doesn't. It's using an HDR mode. It's like HDR10. It's not Dolby Vision for the Dolby Vision video that's being shot on the phone. So if it can properly display the videos on my phone better, I'm all in. But yeah, I got to research more of that. So I will investigate. But in any event, that is it. So I will catch you all very soon, and thank you all for watching. Catch you later. Bye-bye.